Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 117, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And MrRyu 45.
And I will pick up with tradition by saying, oh man.
Whoa, MrRyu. Oh, whoa.
Oh, I got out of my cave.
Do you like the Sega Genesis game Strider, where you play a Strider MrRyu?
Yes, I do.
Whoa.
That's my main character. I play Ryu and Strider MrRyu.
Wait.
Versus
Mr. Are you MrRyu from Art of Fighting?
We don't talk about that guy.
but it has sprite scaling. It's got to be good.
You'll have to taunt to get your special meter up or something. And
Yeah.
your special moves are poo poo.
Yeah, you have 3 fireballs and then you're out unless you taunt.
Yeah, and you have to Hadouken that one waiter character, and oh, she's a woman.
Oh,
it turns out it's King. So, yeah. So anyway, we are big horror game fans here at Corrective Consciousness, and
I'm not.
Except me, I'm scared. Especially games with skeletons
for me.
in them.
I
That's
hate
why I
horror
stay
games.
away from RPGs, because skeletons are the worst.
I got the perfect game for you, Mr. Bones on the Sega Saturn.
I actually have that.
So do I. But
I hate medieval because you play as a skeleton.
There's a jazz skeleton, man. How do you go wrong?
Yeah. But we wanted to go over some horror gems here for the Halloween season to get you in the mood for some dulcet tones later on in the
I'm never
the
in
month.
the mood.
Some
this
tubular bells.
Season is too spooky. I hate it.
But I mean, I love all of the mainstream ones, of course, all of the mainstays of horror video gaming, but there are a lot of really cool undergroundy kind of titles that I wanted to talk about during this, and game types that aren't normally explored. For instance, there were a series of I think they were just web games. They were just like Java web games from back in the day, called the Crimson Room. Did you guys ever play those
Yeah,
games?
I played through. I think there were 3 of them. There was the Crimson Room, the Viridian Room, and what was it just called the White Room or
Yellow
something?
Room. There was a yellow room and a white room too.
I don't know if I played the yellow one.
Yeah.
I've
Did you ever
never
play
heard of
this,
them.
MrRyu?
Never.
They're point and click, solve a million little puzzles to eventually open the door out of the room. When you open the door, you don't see what's on the other side. You just go through it. It's like you've escaped.
Yeah, so it's like an escape
I
the
think
room
I've
puzzle.
played. They're Flash games, right? I think.
Yep.
I think I've played a couple of them. They're Japanese, I think.
Yeah, so they were very underground, but a lot of people in the West played them.
Yeah.
For the people that like the Newgrounds kind of crowd,
Yeah.
used to recommend these kind of games because they had kind of like a horror bent to them. Like there's like something kind of sinister and off about them, like the way
It's
that
like, why
their
are you
atmosphere.
here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there were some creepy things about like the animation, when there was animation, was really disjointed and
Well, no,
weird.
you know what was really great was, I think it was the White Room. There's this one puzzle where you have to you have a phone, and you have to figure out through some other puzzle. There's a particular phone number you have to call, and when you do, something will unlock so you can do the next puzzle. But when you dial the number, you hear a ring, like the ringing, and a voice on the other end just goes like, "Okay," and the thing unlocks.
Well,
You're
you
like,
have
"Who
to
the
dial
fuck are
help.
you?" Like,
You have to dial help on the phone, and
that's
it
what
goes,
it was. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
and
okay. You're like,
and he helps
whoa.
you, and it helps you, but you, I don't know if you want help.
Yeah,
from
who was
that
I
thing.
talking to? Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, Crimson Room was really cool. There's a collection of these games. I believe there's one on Steam that is very accessible, and there was even a collection of it on the PSP. I think it was a downloadable only title. And they were a lot of fun, and there's a whole collection of them, and they're in English officially now. So this used to be the kind of thing that was fan translated back in the day. There is one particular puzzle in the yellow room that was very difficult because I didn't understand kanji. Even in the translated one, it's very difficult because like I just didn't get it.
Yeah, Fatal Frame 1 had something like that where it turns out that like you're supposed to press these numbers and it's like it goes backwards instead of forwards and that's all you have to figure out. But the game doesn't make that clear. Instead, it was like you need to follow these kanji and like forget being able to read and understand them. You don't need to do that. It's just press the corresponding kanji. But I didn't have like I can't read my note and play the game at the same time. So it's really difficult to remember what more complicated kanji looks like. And I'm like, why is this in the official American version?
So, yeah, there is a version of this that is like an updated version of it on the on Steam, which is cool. It's kind of billed as a sequel, but not really. But it's pretty neat. I definitely recommend it. It's definitely the type of game that is similar to the room that I talked about in Recon earlier this week. And it's very satisfying when you figure out, how to get past each thing. It's a lot of fun.
By the way, on this line of thought, if you're talking about point and click logic, figure out how to get through this area, it plays a little different. It's more of an adventure game than a point and click like trapped in one room game. But this just makes me think of like Shadowgate and Uninvited. Like Uninvited.
Yeah, sure.
Had one of the creepiest moments I've ever seen in a Nintendo Entertainment System game, because that was never a scary system. Even Sweet Home wasn't like freak you out creepy. It was like they say it's a horror game and I see why it is, but like Uninvited actually could get creepy. Like there's that one part in the very beginning of the game where there's a woman in a white formal dress or wedding gown looking away from you, and it's like, let me guess, it's scary when she turns around. But the thing is, when she turns around, she's a skeleton inside, but the text box is like, I know, it's like, okay, I might have guessed that, but then you die because she kills you. It's just an image. You just see her looking at you and it's a skeleton. Yeah. But the text is like, you die as she like tears the flesh off of you, and you're like, holy shit! Like it's pretty rough for a text-based Nintendo game.
I actually wanted to mention now that you had said that, I actually wanted to get you, Lotus, to talk a little bit about the Corpse Party series in particular.
Oh man, that game. I don't know what's more horrifying in that game, the voice acting in a good way, the voice acting or the text, because like they convey some shit in those games. And MrRyu, you've played the first two and some of the third as well. Like those games go too far all the time.
Oh yes, they do, especially with the bad ends. It's just like they're very descriptive.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
remember
the sound direction is so good.
Yeah,
along with like the voice acting.
The voice acting is legendary.
Honestly, I think the best way to play Corpse Party is like in the dark with headphones.
Well, actually, you beat Book of Shadows, right?
I beat Book of Shadows.
Did you ever go to like the voice actors talking about their experience with the game?
Yes, some of them were scared, but like who's the voice actor who's like Joseph? He's like iconic.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to bring up. He described the best way to play the game. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in the bathtub with like fast. This is like really
in the bathtub
weird.
with like red food coloring in the water, and play the PSP like in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get wet, and have the lights off. And the best part of that whole audio bit was he was like, "Now who would play a game in that manner?" You ask. I would. I would play the game
he's
that way.
a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
He seems hilarious.
So, I'm starting to play the first one. I got a little the ways through on the original PSP version, but since then I had fallen off of it and kind of just wanted to play it for the getting into the Halloween season, and especially since I just beat Hollow Knight, I have some extra time to play something on portable. So why not this one? The DS version is the version to play, right, Lotus?
Well, the 3DS version
like
has...
3DS, that's what I meant.
Yeah, the 3DS version has the extra chapter, Tooth. And if you care, it's a 3DS game, so I think you might be able to do some 3D stuff with it. But yeah, it has some extra content. Otherwise, I think I haven't tested it, but I think that it just is the PSP game with like the extra level.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, wasn't hold on, wait, no, the PSP version had Tooth too.
No, or
Oh,
oh
no,
no,
wait,
you
oh no,
no,
that
that
was
was Book
in
of Shadows.
Book of Shadows. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So the 3DS version of the original. Well, I mean, I know that the PSP version is itself a remake, but I'm gonna call it the original game because it's the first game America got.
Sure.
Yeah,
The original
I mean,
game was
we
released
do.
on Steam, right?
Yeah, the original PC game, which is an RPG, I think, from RPG Maker.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, I'm not gonna say who the bad guy of the game is because it's something of a reveal. But the thing with Corpse Party is like, in the first game you have HP, like if you walk on toxic substances or whatever. But it feels kind of weird because you never fight anything. Like if a ghost touches
Gotcha.
you or whatever, you might lose HP, and like if it presses you enough, then you die. But in the original RPG Maker game, there is one fight in the entire game, and it's like
What?
the puppet master, and it's like you just straight up fight, like, okay.
It's like,
It just
what?
feels weird. Oh, and by the way, I should point out, even though I haven't yet played it myself, the OG game released on GOG is worth playing, even if you've played the remake, because like character personalities are different. Like it's basically a different game.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. And also, I did hear that Corpse Party 2 with a one in the hospital, which is like kind of a sequel.
Oh yeah,
but
Corpse
a different-
Party 2. Yeah,
It
that
was
that,
like
that game's
Dead
been dead in the
Patient,
water
I think?
forever, but it's been, yeah, Dead Patient. They've had a bit of a revival recently, which is, it's been like years since we've heard anything about it.
Oh, well, that's because it's like a Dojin game in Japan.
Yeah.
For PC, but like I think like Xseed is still
Yeah, they talked about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's still up in the air with in America, but like I can't wait to play that. But I
Yeah.
I should really finish Blood Cover,
Blood Drive.
Blood Drive.
Yeah,
my
Blood
bad.
Covered, I think, is
Oh,
just
Blood Cover is the remake
original
of the
game.
PSP. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
Okay.
yeah.
how many of these games are there? I have
Well-
trouble keeping
Well,
track.
the GOG original version, we're not gonna count that in the trilogy, but there's 3 games.
Okay.
Technically,
There's a fourth one, which
yeah,
is
there
like
is a fourth one, but it's kind of a parody, even though it kind of
it's canon. It's kind of
Yeah,
canon.
it is canon. Like Blood Drive references it a couple of times in ways that don't matter in the overall grand scheme of things, but there'll be like a nod, and you're like, whatever, I guess, and you kind of move on. But it turns out it was a reference to this game. But it's called the name of the bad guy of the game's birthday to you, like the number 2, the letter U, and it's got just goofy shit in it. Like it's so funny. Like I've seen a little clip, even though it was in Japanese. This is something that
So this
you
one
should
never came out in English?
no, it's too esoteric even for Xseed. It like no one's gonna buy this fucking game except for like people like us. But this is like there was a death sequence in that game where it's like it's reminiscent of an iconic death, like the first big one in Madoka Magica, where someone gets their head bitten off, but like it was by a giant loaf of bread that came alive, and the bad guy was like, oh, like at this time the bread eats you, and I'm like, and so it's just this stupid parody of this legitimately like, oh my god, this really got me, like death scene in Madoka. And like this is when Madoka was pretty new, so like you should know what this is referencing at the time, you know? It's like one of those iconic moments. It's like if the game came out in the 90s and referenced the eclipse from Berserk. It's kind of like that. It was just weird.
Yeah.
So there's also Blood Drive, which was for the Vita only. Is that it?
Yeah,
Yes,
that
Vita
was the
only?
final game of the trilogy, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to play them all, you would, and like the most complete versions of them all, you need to play like the 3DS remake, the PSP
Book of Shadows.
Book of Shadows, and then the Vita Blood Drive. Okay.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
you could
obvious.
Play them all in the Vita. You know.
Yeah, you could just
download-
play them all on the Vita, because like it's one of those cases where the game was designed that way for the PSP. So I don't know if the extra chapter is gonna feel like an extra or what. Like you'll be fine with the PSP, but if you have the 3DS version, then why the hell not?
Yeah, and Book of
Gotcha.
Shadows is essentially just a visual novel.
Yeah, it's basically a visual novel, but it is very much plot and worth exploring. Not to mention,
It sets up for Blood.
it sets up for Blood Drive, but even then, The fact that it's a visual novel really doesn't matter. Even in the first PSP game, you move your characters around, yeah, but like it's all about text anyway. And like you still find an item and you use it on a thing in the visual novel style game. You still click around a map and move around. So it's just a different way of handling the same thing. And then Blood Drive goes back to moving characters around, although they look more like kind of like the remake of Secret of Mana, like iPhone style graphics.
Although there were a few annoying mechanics where just like, oh, can I just get through this?
Well, the level of corruption was kind of like, all right.
And also like they like it's like, oh look, there's ghosts. You have to hide from them. I was like, okay, can you go away now, please?
Well, in the first game, yeah, that was a little frustrating. Book of Shadows pretty
I'll
much
take
does
that
away
Blood
with
Drive.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Blood Drive,
Yeah,
they
they-
like took us to a whole new level because like even
They
when
really
you
did.
move, I'm just like, could you leave me alone now? I just want to progress the game.
yeah, that was one advantage of Book of Shadows, where there was no quick dodge or whatever. Like it's pictures. Just
Yeah.
just make a choice.
So, I'm looking forward to playing this series. I know that you guys were pretty much into it.
I mean, I've probably said this before, but bring tissues because this is legitimately one of the most like just sad, miserable, like make you cry for real like games I've ever played. The first one especially.
Is
By
there
the
an
time
anime as well on top of
there
it?
was, and
There
it was
was. I
mediocre.
would not recommend it
Okay.
to be
It
honest.
was mediocre. I would
but,
say
like, you
watch
should-
the
if-
anime. Go ahead.
Like I would suggest you watch the anime after you play the game because like
Yes.
the anime original ending was pretty like whoa.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was gonna say. It's mostly how the first game plays out, although heavily abridged. It's like 30-40 minutes in total. But yeah, the ending was like
Out of left field.
when you know how the first game ends, the anime's ending was insane. Like that was the one part that was 100% worth it. It was like, oh shit,
Yeah,
that
was
was
worth it.
fantastic. Because like we saw what happened, and MrRyu and I were both like, wait, really? And then credits play, and we're like, oh, it was fantastic.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to playing that. I love like horror like games like this, so I'm really looking forward to it. Coincidentally, I actually started playing Undertale as well, and it just kind of reminds me of it because it's like an RPG Maker style game.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what
Undertale is obviously heavily reminiscent of Earthbound.
Yeah.
But it does kind of have that sort of like old style graphic move around look.
Yeah. But I was just like coincidentally, it kind of feels like that. I also wanted to mention a fan translated game that I think everybody should give a shot to, especially if you have if you download and play emulate original DS games or you play on a flash cart old DS games. There's a game called The Nameless Game by Square Enix, and it's called Nanashi no Game. It and its sequel were fan translated, and I definitely recommend them.
Yeah, that's really a really cool game.
Yeah. So, MrRyu, have you ever played this
Don't think so.
or heard about it? Okay. It's really quite a shame that it didn't come out in the U.S. because I think this kind of game would have done okay here. Especially with the fans of adventure games that there are were on the original DS. I mean, you had like the Ace Attorney games and you had like Hotel Dusk. I know some of those games didn't sell well, but those types of games certainly had their fans. Trace Memory.
Also, this might have been pretty decent because it was like timely at the time.
Yeah.
It is heavily reminiscent of The Ring, the movie.
Original Ring movie.
Yeah.
It in fact you might as well even call it like a ripoff because it does have the 7-day structure.
Yeah, and I saw the prologue of the game too, and it just like it's the opening scene of The Ring. It just
Really is. So like you start the game and it like you're in the real world. So there's like 3D environment that you're walking around in.
Yeah, in the first person.
Yeah, and it's really cool. You're going through school, and then you realize that your friend hasn't come to school in a couple days, and nobody has heard from him. So you're like really worried about him. So you come to his apartment and find out basically like just like the beginning of the Ring movie, that he's dead. Like he's been like absorbed by this game on a fictional version of the DS.
Oh,
And
so he got the suck.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But what's interesting though is that like you can play the game and it's like this super like it's not even 8-bit. It's like this really basic like Atari looking kind of thing.
Yeah,
where
the game looks like the original Final Fantasy. If you ever played that,
I have actually.
Okay, so the game in the game looks like a corrupted version of the original Final Fantasy, and the graphics there, and maybe mixed with the original Dragon Quest.
Oh, excuse me, Dragon Warrior.
Yeah.
No, Dragon
right.
Quest.
I can't wait for them to release
by the maestro Akira
Toriyama. No, you know what they need to do to fuck with us is Dragon Quest 12 needs to be just called Dragon Warrior 12 just for no reason. Like we're going back. I'm sorry.
Fuck you and your boxes and trying to keep them all nice and neat.
And then like we should like never release like Final Fantasy 16, 17, and 18, but then the next one will be Final Fantasy 16. Like
yeah. like 10. Like
and
Dragon
then,
Quest 10.
No, just like Final
is,
Fantasy like 4,
like
5, and
Fantasy
6
20.
are like 2, 3, and 6 or whatever it was. No, Final Fantasy 3, yeah, 4 is 2 and 3 is 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Some
You
bullshit.
double them.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a cool game. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed its atmosphere. It will definitely give you the creeps. It has like this lo-fi aspect to it, kind of like a movie that is filmed on like really grainy film does. This game has some like intentional glitchiness to it that just makes you feel off while you're playing it. And it's very creepy. There's some like weird stuff going on in the town that you're exploring. There's people being hanged. It's just it's real creepy and weird.
And not only that, but speaking of the lo-fi stuff, I remember when you see your dead friend, he looks like the victim from The Ring in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a DS game, I don't know if it was meant to look old then, but it certainly looks old now. But that kind of contributes to why it's creepy, because it sort of has that surreal like in a movie 90s CG where it was not supposed to look creepy. But you're kind of like there's this one game for the Wii which I have not played but I want to, called Ikinie no Yoru, which is Night of the Sacrifice. And you know how every system kind of has a look, like if you go back in 5 years, you're like, that's a PS2 game. Like
you know what an N64 game looks like. For sure.
Dreamcast really has a look. The Wii really has a look if a game was designed specifically for the Wii.
Like a house style almost, or like a way that the games were rendered, or like the amount of fidelity on how many polygons were used, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So like Deadly Creatures and like this horror game kind of have a similar look, even though they look nothing alike. You know what I mean? But like the creepy monsters in this game, if you look at pictures of them, you're like, how is this scary? But when you're actually playing the game, you kind of feel it. It's like Silent Hill 1. If you look at screenshots of the enemies, they're fucking pixels. But when you play the game, it kind of makes it creepier because it just doesn't look good enough. That kind of like, I don't know if it was intentional at the time, but it makes it work better now. Like everyone was like, who wants to see a remake of Silent Hill 1? And on one hand, that'd be cool as shit. But on the other hand, part of the reason Silent Hill 1 worked is because it's a freaking PS1 game.
It's kind of like how you know that Squall is really the best looking guy there.
I love that.
There's like one pixel for his mouth. Looks like a freaking idiot.
He looks like shit.
I love how someone like drew that and it like is just like exactly as is the pixel version. It's like
yeah, I love that. Someone did something similar with Silent Hill 1 where it's like, this is my daddy in the kid's like coloring book, and someone drew like a realistic version like that and it looks like fucking terrible. Like any kid's drawing of their parent, like if the parent really looked like that, I'd be like, oh.
That reminds me of like in South Park, they do like a almost
like the hyper realistic kids.
Yeah, like a police sketch of the 4 kids, and you're like,
yes, that was so funny.
They look way too good, and you're like, wait.
It just looks like Cartman just looks like a regular fat kid, and you're like,
yeah, you're like, what?
No.
Yeah, that was pretty. I forgot about that.
Oh, you should, if you want some real nightmare fuel, kind of like that. Have you ever heard of the Snow Brothers games?
Yes, I
they're
do.
great.
I
Well,
actually love
I've only
them.
ever heard of the first one. I didn't know there
Okay.
were more than one.
So there
I
are
played
like
that a lot.
3 of them, I think. One of the sequels, either 2 or 3, like in this game, it's kind of like Bubble Bobble. It's a single screen like puzzle-y game, right?
Yeah.
And but you're like a cartoony snowman, right? Well, in one of the sequels, the in the character select screen where you can select like the brothers, they're like realistic like
Oh,
clown
wow.
versions of the snowmen. It looks bizarre, like they're digitized and like
Whoa.
snowmen and clowns at the same time. It's fucked up.
Actually, you know what I'm reminded of? Even though you brought it up just in Reactive Consciousness, Trio the Punch, when you use your super moves or whatever, and it shows your character going like, "Ah!" and like they have this gross, like way too detailed face. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And like your master always looks like that between levels.
Oh yeah, here it is. You're
Okay, what is this?
Yeah, no, I need to show this to you because you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Okay. Yeah,
I know.
I
I
remember
know
what
the
they look
audience
like on the
can't see
original
it.
Nintendo.
Okay, so let me just see this. So
Let me get. I got the image. Let me see what.
Just let people, let the listeners at home know what to look up to find this.
Okay, just Snow Brothers 2, and then to do a Google image search, you'll see what I'm talking about. The character select screen.
okay.
Because I've only seen their cutesy look in the original Snow Brothers. I
Yeah,
didn't
give
even,
me-
like
give me
again,
a
I didn't know
second.
there were sequels.
Yeah, I only played the first one as a kid, and
Yeah.
I loved the shit out of
First
those
one was
games.
cool. Yeah, it was a great
It
game.
was cool.
Yeah, just click on this.
Okay, let's see. What did you make me click on?
Oh, ew! What the? It's not even close.
Excuse me. Really?
It's ridiculous.
I was not kidding.
Like the first kid on the left, it looks like the actual Snow Brother. Like not
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah. It looks like a real baby with eyeliner
Yeah,
on, like
ew.
Mimi from Drew Carey or something.
That's so.
There's a
wrong.
reference, Mimi from Drew Carey.
Yeah, but that's the closest thing that I know of to what this kid looks
yeah,
like.
yeah. That's gross,
hilarious.
man.
That's so
No thanks.
weird.
Yeah, look at the one where they're all colored in, like the third one.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah, it's a hard pass, man.
Yep.
Oh my god.
That's a real horror game. Please look this up. That the best way I could describe is like it's ultra realistic and it doesn't need to be. Like the people who made this game were definitely like, oh, all right, let's fuck,
Yeah, if
fuck
you
them up.
saw the ultra realistic pictures and you said make them into a Nintendo character, like the Snow Brothers you're familiar with, would be like not even close.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
that's-
fuck
that's-
these people up who are playing this game. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
It's just
But
too
anyway.
funny. Okay.
So I wanted to mention those games, and I also wanted to mention a favorite of mine that I don't think many people have played other than me and Lotus. This was a very late PS1 title that I think Resident Evil fans should definitely play, called Martian Gothic.
For real though. Yeah.
It's a very. Did you end up LPing this?
No, but I really want to.
Okay.
The thing with this is, do you know the differences between the PS1 version and the PC version?
No, I don't.
There's a huge difference.
Really?
Oh,
Is the
well,
PC version like a lot more content or something?
That's debatable, but I'll give you this because this is fucking gigantic. What makes the game so intriguing is that when you first start the game, there are 3 characters. This is Resident Evil 0 before Resident Evil 0. You could swap characters on the fly, which blew my mind for a PS1 game.
Okay.
Even when they were in radically different games. Like, you knew about this. But when you start the game, all 3 characters are facing some pillar or obelisk, and it's like, just so you know, when this game's over, it's not saying it's a fucking game, but it's like, when this adventure of yours is over, only 2 of you are walking out of this alive, and you're like, oh, who's gonna be the one? Like, whoa, what's gonna happen in this game? And it's like, you got my attention immediately. Well, in the PS1 game, like, there's a particular person who dies, but in the PC version, you can determine which character dies. So that's a huge difference.
Wow.
I don't know how many more differences there are, but that's a fucking big one. The only other difference I could think of is, like, just some slight censorship issues on the PS1's part. So if you can get the PC version to run, then that's the way to go.
Huh, I didn't know.
Also, the
about
cover of the game is freaking cool.
that. Yeah, I really like it, and it definitely has that like Lovecraftian in space kind of deal going
Sort of.
on.
This is
Yeah.
one of those games, by the way. You introduced it to me at my place because you just brought over your binder of CDs, and I was like, "Oh, that game looks pretty cool." This is one of those games that like a little while later, when I went to a game store, part of a local chain that's since gone out of business, it was like this is in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. It was called Game Trader.
Oh, sure.
I think there were like 3 or 4 stores. It wasn't a huge chain or anything, but they were kind of bad about pricing their games, but like in a way that benefited the customer. Like their new games were like overpriced. You should just go to GameStop.
Sure.
But their old games, like there were particular titles like Heart of Darkness or something where they would be like, okay, well this is $20, but like a lot of PS1 titles just rang up as generic PS1 game. So like a lot of PS1 games were $4. I got fucking Blood Omen Legacy of Kain for $4. Like I got fucking Kingsfield, I think, for $4, the long box for
Wow.
no.
That's
But
that's expensive now. I think
I
that'll
think
that'll cost you like $50 now.
I think the
at
jewel
least.
case version is the more expensive version because you just never
Really?
saw it. It might be. I've never
I
seen
would
it.
think the long box would be because like that's more collectible, because of the.
It is. But anyway, that's where I saw Martian Gothic, and like no one heard of that game, so I got it for $4, and I've never seen it like. I mean, I could easily find it online if I wanted to, but like I've never seen someone just having it to sell like ever again.
Yeah, the funny thing about that game is that it came out like it was like a budget kind of title that came out. It was like by Take-Two Interactive before they.
And
like,
it's still cheap now, by the way. I'm not saying I got this collector's item. It's just I've never seen it again.
But it was one of those titles that like you saw everywhere because it was like in bargain bins next to like Spec Ops games. Remember Spec Ops before like the Spec Ops line was made.
Yeah, before that blew everyone out of the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the old Spec Ops games were like, okay.
Yeah, no, those games were made to be like $15 on the PS1. But you would find it next to a bunch of Spec Ops games because those are like the last games on that system.
Yeah.
And you'd find tons of copies of Martian Gothic. Now it's people have gotten word that it's a pretty decent game, and I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the character switching mechanic was really neat. I thought it was cool.
But once again, you have a limited number of saves, and there are some enemies that have key items on them that you need to kill, which is a bit frustrating. I recently played Resident Evil Gaiden, so that's why I have this reference in my head, but it's kind of like Resident Evil Gaiden. I don't remember if Martian Gothic hints which items have, or which enemies have items. I forgot if it did. Like Resident Evil Gaiden clearly would go, someone nearby has an item. Martian Gothic I forgot, and it was kind of scary because, I mean, in true survival horror fashion, you are not just swimming in ammunition. Like, you want to be careful of how you... like when you shoot, because like who knows what's coming up next.
I also wanted to mention on top of this a game that you and MrRyu have played, Until Dawn.
That game's freaking brilliant.
Oh, that's a really fun game.
Yeah, I really wanted to let you guys talk about that because I know you guys LP'd it and why our listeners would want to play it and get some experience out of it.
Well, essentially, Until Dawn is just like a kind of like a really fun horror movie. Like, you play.
Yeah, from what I've heard is that it's like a David Cage game, like Heavy Rain or Detroit Become Human, except the biggest complaint I see about every single David Cage game is that the writing is not great. And like there are things that you can pick apart about it,
things like that.
Yeah, and the gameplay can kind of fall apart later on, or like people really got on Beyond Two Souls' case. But like Until Dawn is kind of like a really good version of a David Cage game. It's just not made by David Cage. But this is it's interesting.
It's a David Cage style game.
Sure.
Words, yeah.
It's interesting in that by the time, like when you make it to the end credits. You have, what was it, like 8 characters, I think? I think there were 4 girls, 4 guys. When you make it to the end credits, you can save, like, who lives at the end. Anywhere from 0 to all 8 of them can survive to the end credits.
Yeah.
You can actually fuck the entire game up.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do.
We actually made some really good decisions. Like, I only, like, except for, like, failing that QuickTime event or making a bad decision, which... fucked up a lot of the ending. Like, based on the decisions we made in our regular playthrough, we only lost 2 people. And one of them was I didn't explore well enough. The other, there was no fucking way we were figuring that one out. Like, we were guaranteed to lose Matt. That was definitely happening.
Yeah, and that one thing is just like, well, like, here's an arbitrary decision. I hope you made the right one.
That was you really could not tell with that one. With Josh, I'll blame myself for that one. I should have explored the room better. But Matt, there was no saving him. I would never have figured that out. But everyone else, we just coincidentally made some good decisions.
Yeah, we did. That was actually a clean playthrough until we screwed up that last QT.
Yeah, that was actually kind of hilarious.
And I was like, oops.
The real way to play those games is not to like play them clean, but to like commit to whatever happened.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with this game, you will want to replay the game and have it clean because there are actually entire areas of the game you might miss if characters die because people split up. It's a horror movie. So, like, there were, like, I think 2 just places that I got in my extras installment of the Let's Play that MrRyu and I just never saw in the original. Like, when we were... You remember that one part where there was, like, a major escape sequence where we were trying to run away from the psycho killer who was chasing us and we got caught?
Yeah.
It's possible to just evade, and then you just do a different part of the game with that person. It's amazing. But what I liked about that game, though, was that the characters felt pretty realistic as far as schlocky horror movie characters went.
Oh, yeah.
The acting was great, like, just across the board, especially Josh, because he had some, like, really good passion moments. I also liked Chris, Mike, Sam, Jessica. She wasn't, like, around much. Even if you have her live throughout the game, she's just not around too often.
Yeah.
Emily, I hated the character, but her actor was fantastic.
Yeah. Like, they played their horror, like, movie tropes very well.
Yeah, and I think my favorite part of the entire game, though, is, like, Dr. Kaufman from Silent Hill Shattered Memories. That psychiatrist you see is the fucking best. He is so very much enjoying the fact that, like, you're seeing him for trauma, but he is, like, just eating this game up. It's so good.
Yeah,
I don't want to go into too much detail.
Yeah, the intermissions between, like, the chapters with him, they're very entertaining.
They're great.
And they also slightly modify the game, like, just a little bit. Like,
to a degree, they can. Like, it's little thing again, like Silent Hill Shattered Memories. It's like, what are you more afraid of, roaches or rats? And, like, it's not a big thing, but you'll see, like, suddenly something comes crawling out of a crack in the wall. It's a roach or a rat, depending what you say. It's little stuff like that where you're like, the game knows. Okay.
Well, that's really cool. I really want to play this game. I know I introduced it to you, Lotus, initially, but you obviously have explored the game a lot further than I ever did. But we had this one night where we went through, like, a whole bunch of, like, kind of, like, offbeat horror games, and I really enjoyed that. That was like 2 or 3 years ago, and
a few of the games on your list for the show notes. You already talked about the Nanashi no Game, and then Until Dawn, and then I see you also have Spooky's House of Jump Scares. That was just, like, all from that night.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about Spooky's House of Jump Scares. Did you play that at all, Daryl?
I know of it, and I know, like, how fucked up it gets, like, later on. The more you play through,
it gets actually scary.
Yeah, it gets legit scary, and, like, at first, that's cute, and then, like, okay, well, that took a quick turn. This is a horror game.
Like, it's amazing because, by the way, it's no longer called Spooky's House of Jump Scares.
Really?
Like, it changed its name years ago. I don't remember why. I think there was some issue with it. It's still called something similar, though, like Jump Scare House, or it's something close to that. But, yeah, the gimmick with the game is there's this one ghost called Spooky, and it's just like, you're gonna go to my house of jump scares. Oh my god, like, tee, and she just flies away. And so, like, you have to pass through 1,000 fucking rooms. The thing is, each room is relatively short. There are some longer ones than others, but they're, like, you'll be through 10 rooms in, like, 30 seconds. Like, they're not that long. But, a whole lot of rooms are just nothing, where occasionally the game just goes da-dong with a piano chord, and, like, a little cardboard cutout of, like, a cute pumpkin with a smiley face comes out. It's like, it is a jump scare, but it's not scary. Like it's cute things, and you're like, ah, you got me. It's stupid. But eventually, like an actual enemy appears, which can kill you, and it's a little creepy looking. And you're like, okay, there are enemies. It's a challenge, and it can be kind of stressful if there's a narrow path you have to walk on, and he's blocking it. You're like, how do I get around? This is spooky. But like, the game gets fucked up. Like there's
Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion.
There you go. There you go.
Why was it changed to that?
There was probably, I think there was some reason they had to change it. I don't remember why though. But the thing is, every 100 levels you get a save point, so you do have to play a bit before you could get a checkpoint. But every 250 levels, Spooky will give you a little password. So if you like, you could just go to level 250, 500, or 750. So I remember at Vice's place, we're like, let's go to each of these locations, and some of them got like actual Silent Hill style, like other worlds, that grimy, rusty look where everything was blurry and there were kind of those nurse enemies coming at you. There were like we went to level 750 and there was like legit like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, like, oh shit, please don't find me level of scares. You could eventually get a weapon, but you have to, like, you find a database earlier in the game that says this weapon, this enemy you should run from, this enemy you should hit, this enemy, whatever you do not hit with a sword or it insta kills you. And there's like, so the game gets actually hard and actually scary. It looks like a parody of a horror game, and then it isn't. It's like, oh geez, it's kind of fantastic in that regard.
Yeah, what's also cool about it is the original version is a free game on Steam, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do an HD remake. If you really like it, it's for $10. Okay. So that's still very reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, just support them, please.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, regarding one more game, because you were mentioning games that are overlooked, and that fuck with you. I just want to give a quick shout out to Pony Island.
Oh, because I love Pony Island.
The best part of that game is its name, because you're like, Pony Island. That game is creepy as shit.
Oh, it's a creepy ass game. Did you ever see this, MrRyu?
No, I've not.
Oh, okay.
I think Lotus like mentioned it like once.
But it's great. Maybe we should Lotus and I played this together.
Yeah, Lotus and I beat it. MrRyu, maybe we should let's play it or something, because like that game is actually like it's not scary. Because like here's the thing, I don't know how many other people do this, but like scary and creepy are very different things to me. Like Corpse Party is not scary. It is creepy as shit, but it is not scary. Pony Island is one of those. You're not going to be like, oh, when you're playing the game, but
but you're on edge while you're playing the game.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that game gets into your head. It's fantastic.
Oh.
Yeah. So essentially, you're like a guy playing an arcade game, and the arcade game is like this derpy like pony jumping game where you just jump over like. You know, it's just like a jumping, like a forever runner, an infinite runner.
Yeah, like Flappy Bird, just keep going. Yeah.
But it's really derpy and easy. Like you jump over like these fences, and that's it. But then like you play the game more, and you find out like the game is haunted.
Don't say exactly what it is, but you learn some shit.
Yeah. It's crazy, and the game gets more like. It devolves and gets all glitchy and gets all fucked up and weird.
It goes further than you would think a game called fucking Pony Island would. Yeah. Like, the game's dirt cheap, too, and it's well worth it.
Oh, it's great for an experience for one night.
Literally the first thing you have to do when you turn on the game is figure out how to start it. You have to, like, build the menu, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize this is what I would be doing today.
Yeah, like, it looks like the game is broken. While you're playing it.
It's really it's good, man. It's good. It's very good.
Yeah, definitely worth your money and your time.
Yes.
You could probably beat the game in maybe 3 hours, I would say, maybe.
Yeah, if you're taking your sweet, like if you want to just go, then it's even quicker. But like 3 hours is probably a reasonable estimate if you're like looking around.
But it's worth your time and your dollar for sure.
Yes.
But those were the main games that I wanted to talk about this time around. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add as like titles that you wanted the listeners to know about?
Yeah, actually, there's two NIS games I really like the style of, and I did
Oh,
play a little
oh.
bit of them. One of them is like Yomawari, Night
Oh
Alone.
Yeah.
yeah.
I played that for the Vita. That game is
It's
actually scary.
the game is actually legit scary. I'm just like, oh, it's cutesy, and they're like, oh, okay, that took a dark turn. I was like,
Like
oh my god, this game is pretty creepy, even though like the graphics are cute. Oh
it's
boy,
kind of creepy because the graphics are cute.
yeah. And then
The thing,
Hotaru no
like the fun.
Niki,
What was it?
Hotaru no Niki or HTQ.
Oh, that like Firefly game.
Yeah, that's actually a really I love the style of that game so much.
I gotta
And
play it. I
like
gotta try it.
and it's not scary, but like it is quite unsettling, especially when you see the first enemy. But
Sure. Well,
like
it was the same thing with Yomawari.
yeah.
You're like, I'm playing as a Disgaea character because NIS just makes characters like that, and then you see the ghosts,
It's
and you're
kind
like,
of like
whoa.
Hotaru no Niki is like one of those kind of like point and click like guide the like the
Yeah, yeah,
help the character by guiding the I guess the
yeah.
character
Move
with
things
your
out of her
mouse.
way so she can walk.
Yeah, and then like solving puzzles, and like I love that game, but unfortunately I'm having like screen tearing issues like on PC that just kind of like take me out of the experience, so I stopped playing.
That's a
I
shame.
got the Vita version, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that translates to that
So,
port as well. I guess
what-
I'll have to look into it.
What I think it is just like an unoptimized port on Steam. So I think I
Okay.
would love to try get the Vita version at some point. So
You might
Oh,
want to
but-
take a look at the discussions tab in Steam.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of times, especially with Japanese games, there are hidden VSync options in INI files. A lot of times
Yup.
that you can go into those INI files and change like an N to a Y on VSync, and it'll just
Oh.
clean it all up. So
Yeah, that
I'm
could
sure
be.
there are people talking about that in the discussion, and that's probably exactly what you need to do, and they'll tell you where to find the file.
okay, I'll take a look at that because like. When I'm trying to like experience a game like that, like I like and
You want to get
something-
immersed.
Yeah, like something like a little screen tearing just takes me out of it because like I am slightly OCD.
Yeah, no, I get the feeling. Oh, by the way, MrRyu, how far did you get in Yomawari?
Am I right? I was in the beginning, like and like after I saw the first thing and like started hiding in the bushes and like the
Oh,
invisible
that's-
enemies, I'm like, oh god,
The
oh
first
god.
time they introduce, like, just hide in the bush, you're like, oh. You should see, like, the game gets really creative later. Like, just the way you have to navigate a certain level is, like, one of the coolest parts I've seen in a Vita game in a long-ass time. You gotta see the final boss. Like, there's gotta be a final something. You don't fight in that game, but, like, the final enemy is, like, quite creative. It's really cool to look at.
Okay, I think I'll do that at some point. This Halloween I'm actually planning to finish up like Course Party Blood Drive and
Nice.
and I do need to change my Vita locale to like my US account though. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. I gotta look into at some point playing the Yomawari sequel. What is it called? Like Midnight Shadows? The
Oh, there's
first
a
one is like
sequel?
Night Alone.
There's
Yeah,
a sequel?
yeah. There's a second game.
wow.
Yeah, it's actually released as a dual pack on the Switch if you want to play it that way.
Oh,
but the
that's
first
how
game
I'm
was
gonna
for
play
the
it.
the
Maybe
first
I
game was for the Vita and the second game was PS4.
Maybe I should get the Switch version or something.
Yeah, I
the
might
first
do
game
that.
is Night Alone. The second game is I think Midnight Shadows.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that was a spooky game. I streamed that one. It was quite entertaining.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy
Oh,
those.
hey, it's on Steam too. Maybe I'll buy that.
Oh, okay, cool. I guess that makes sense. If the first one is, then why not the second?
All right.
Awesome.
I'm adding this to my wish list.
Yeah, there you go.
How about you, Lotus? Did you have any like gems that
Like weird esoteric ones.
yeah, like ones that you haven't showed your audience
Overblood.
yet?
That's scary voice acting. No, I mean this one I've already Let's Played, so I've made it known on my channel. But for sheer horror, I guess Never Ending Nightmares. That game
Sure.
really got under my skin. Like every single person I showed the game to handled it better than I did. They were like, "Okay, we get it, Lotus. The game is scary," but like that game really got to me.
Yeah, especially some of the imagery is just like with the
So the injury images like
breathing
look away from the screen, like uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
I really can't watch the the first one of those.
Oh, I
It's
know you.
fucking
I
disgusting.
know you and gore. It's pretty funny, but
Well,
like,
it depends on the nature. It depends on the nature of gore, but
Didn't that one have to do with like self-mutilation or something?
all of them did.
Okay.
But the second one was pretty bad, where you like cut the arm. But the first one with veins, I can't deal with
Yeah.
that. That was awful. I can't deal with that.
yeah, that makes
But
my skin tingle a bit. But it's like I'm not like ah.
no, like with gore, it depends. Like Kill Bill, I don't give a shit. But that Never Ending Nightmares thing was I cannot deal with that. Like with cutting, I just can't deal with that. But it's a really creepy game done in Edward Gorey black and white illustrate like Gorey. It's a name. Black and white illustration style.
Sure.
The game is very surreal as it should be because nightmares. Heavy symbolism. Incredible sound design. I actually played the demo at PAX when I was actually at PAX in the indie developer booth, and that game got under my fucking skin. This was one of those games I had backed on Indiegogo a long time ago, and I got to actually try it at PAX, and I was just like, whoa, like I made the right decision, but this is fucking scary. So I recommend that one as well.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure this is a topic that we can always come back to because we have a very large knowledge of all kinds of stuff. I would even like to talk about some like lo-fi horror games like Master of Darkness on the Sega Master System someday. But I think this will get people in the mood, especially since we mentioned a bunch of budget titles and like games that you have to procure in cheap ways. So I think these are some good titles in order to sample if you're into this topic. That being said, I will go on to Vice's weigh-in here. So I stayed stationary at 253. Still working on things, but at least I'm maintaining my weight. So
That's good.
moving forward. And Lotus, can you read our reactions for this week, please?
Yeah, we got a few. So this is regarding like accomplishments, like your cool gaming achievements. So Living Corpse X says, once beat Eternal Darkness with fists only, which is fucking insane. He says, except for where it would be impossible to do it that way. Like there are certain bosses you must use weapons on, but everywhere else was fists, which is fucking crazy.
That's nuts.
It says, it helps that horror's health points do not reset when you leave a room. I didn't know that. That's very useful. And Bone Thieves, those things suck because they're tiny. You actually can't hit them. So you have to have them on stairs and be a couple steps below them to punch them. That's such a pain in the ass. And regarding cool sound design, the sound effects for Elfen Lied were amazing.
Oh, yes.
Same for kaiju movies like Godzilla and Gamera. So not only do energy attacks look different, but no two energy attacks sound the same. So they're just as individualized as the monsters themselves. And of course, Silent Hill and Eternal Darkness had great sound design. Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dracologist. If I want to flaunt something, it would be that on the last level of Unreal Tournament, I beat the last boss -1 to 30, which is like, Jesus.
Wow.
Beating Painkiller on Nightmare, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, that
beating
nuts.
like that game's hard. Beating Entombed without a guide. Used to beat an early version of Jackrabbit 2 on hard, finding all the mana wells. That's also impressive.
Yeah.
Finding all the mana wells in Undying.
Entombed does he mean Exhumed, the
Maybe.
Power Slave game?
I don't know.
Okay.
And then finding all the mana wells in Undying, also impressive. And as for underappreciated role, this is a pretty good one. None of us thought of this. The guy who has to draw the gore and the person who has to model the sex scenes. Got me there. All right. Insane Buffoon says, as far as my gaming accomplishments go, I've beaten Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. That's one of those games, just if you beat it at all, like, fucking good for you.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me
difficulty.
Yes. It reminds me of, like, awesome games done quick when they were talking about F-Zero GX on the GameCube. Because speedrunners often talk about, when you play the game casually, because speedrunners play the game very differently from how everyone else would, so they talk about it playing casually. And when they were doing F-Zero GX, one of them said, if you beat this game at all, you are not casual. It's like, yup. I saw Luminaire beat that. That was a bitch. Also, Insane Buffoon. Got 100% on Super Meat Boy twice. Got every item and did every challenge in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth and DLC. Again, fucking insane. I am one achievement behind you, Insane Buffoon. I'll catch you. And then General Ledger says, regarding underappreciated jobs in media, I have an obligatory salute to all the catalogers out there. Generally, people think of librarians as the reference people that stock and locate materials on the shelves for patrons. However, there are cataloging librarians in the background, scrutinizing the materials and refining the library reference systems, so that the reference librarians know what a material actually is. That's fucking intense. My wife is one, specifically a medical informatics metadata analyst. She showed me the elaborate processes she goes through to ensure research papers and journals get properly cataloged. It requires a lot of attention to detail and a great understanding on a broad range of subjects. Without librarians like her, medics would be wasting precious time combing through materials irrelevant to their research. And Hokuto no Ken would wind up in the kids' comics section. No, for real, like, this shit actually happens. Do you remember, guys, back in video rental days in the 90s, where hardcore, like, hentai or, like, ultra-violent anime would be in the kids section because it's a cartoon?
Yes.
Like, that's that shit. There you go.
That's why I watched Akira as a kid.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
Oh, no.
I'm like, what is this? What's
Jesus
happening?
Christ. Like, one of the opening scenes
masks.
is someone gets the shit beat out of them by motorcycle gangs. God damn, dude. You saw that as a kid by accident? That's fucked up.
Hell, I even saw Devil Hunter Yoko as a kid. That's not for kids.
Yeah.
That's less grim, but that is certainly not for
Devil
kids.
Man? Oh, man.
I have not watched Devil Man, but I am familiar with Golden the Guy's works.
That is... Jesus Christ, man. Alright, so, the question is, the Kadet Jaina, next to games, movies, and all that geek stuff, what hobbies do you have? My friends picked up knitting, and I'm afraid I can't follow them into that hellhole. I kind of know that feel. My mom's into the whole knitting, sewing, and especially quilting thing. Anyone who's been to my house knows that my mom kind of likes to quilt.
That's awesome.
But yeah, hobbies. Yeah.
So I'll get into my my hobbies a little bit. I like to cook, and I also like to bartend. As a hobby, you know, when I have friends over, I like to make them drinks. I like to come up with unique creations, as well as I like kind of going through the motions of the old standards. I have a lot of professional bar equipment, and I also collect liqueurs as well in order to make these kinds of things. So I think it's a lot of fun, and it comes from the same place as cooking. It's kind of like I like making something delicious for other people.
Yes, I can attest to this because he makes some really damn good burgers.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, can confirm.
Absolutely. How about you guys?
Well, I guess if this counts, but does like action figure and toy collecting count? I guess.
Ooh, hey.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that you were going to talk about your artistic abilities.
Oh, actually, and I also like drawing, but I have just kind of fallen off on it because I just haven't been drawing. But I do like doodling.
You are talented.
Yeah, and whenever you go back
to
it,
say so, but like you know, I can kind of draw at a competent level. But like I do enjoy drawing. I also enjoy like posing action figures and like collecting them.
Yeah,
I like the idea of doing that, but I can't get around to actually doing it.
The Woody Figma, especially, right?
Oh yeah, and I do like taking like some like certain action figure like pictures, and I in the future I do hope to get a good camera and take like figure and like I guess doll photography, because I do have like those weeaboo cringe like anime dolls, but like hey man.
Well, actually, here's the thing.
You do a really good job with them.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't know what level, like I don't know what makes a difference with one level camera versus another. But like this might sound like a really pleb thing to say, but like a smartphone has a surprisingly good camera. I mean, you have to hold it. Like I mean, you won't have a tripod or anything, but like it's a pretty good camera.
Yeah, the phone camera is pretty good, to be honest. But like, if you want like the highest quality shots, you better get one of those like good cameras with like the lenses and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because like I would like to do that at some point and like go out and like take like nice photos because I've seen like on like Japanese Twitters and like and like
Yeah, I've seen a
like
couple
some
pictures
really
of that
good
where,
like toy photography.
yeah, it looks professional.
Yeah, I
You know what
would
the
love
funny
to get
thing
into
is though?
photography. Oh.
Like the funny thing is, I've seen how they get like not for the Japanese dolls, but like whenever you're like, take a look at this item, and it's like on this jet black backgrounds, like
Oh yeah, that uses a light box where like the light is filtered so there's not like too much light that would make like like
Reflections.
eyesore like glares and stuff.
yeah. But the funny thing is though, is for like the cheap version, I've actually seen just like a black shirt or something like strewn over a chair, and it kind of if you angle it right, it kind of produces the same effect.
Actually, there is a good way to like get that effect really cheap, like make a really cheap light box. All you do is get like one of your like old like I guess Amazon boxes, put like
Yeah.
a white cloth and like some paper, and like a lamp, and like that serves like
Yeah, I mean,
you
no
just
one can
gotta,
tell the
like,
difference.
Yeah, you got a light box for taking like photography of like toys and stuff.
You know what? That's what a lot of amateur filmmakers do. They just use whatever they have, and it works.
And sometimes the results are actually possibly better because of it. Like I never would have thought of that, like that kind of thing. Actually, I forgot if I mentioned this on the podcast. I might have, but like in the first Highlander movie, there was a particular shot in the movie where they actually had to like design the equipment specifically to make that shot. I don't remember what shot it was, unfortunately. But meanwhile, in the final fight of the movie, there's this really cool panning shot that just crosses the entire room as they're sword fighting, and it's really cool and smooth. And apparently what they did was they put a camera on an office chair and kicked the chair across the room, and that's it.
Wow.
So it's like, well, it worked.
Yeah, we back in college, I was president of the filmmaking club, and what we did was we made a dolly out of skateboard wheels and like track, like just basically random ass track that I made out of like piece of metal that I bought at basically like signpost material.
Ooh.
And it was the track, and it worked. The skateboard wheels were like really good for it because of the bearings in them.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool.
All right. Well, as far as my hobbies, like a lot of these, I'm out of practice with or fallen out of, but especially back in high school and kind of college, I very much like to play tennis. I would like to get back into that.
He's the Lotus Prince of tennis.
Yeah, I
Lotus
know.
Prince of
I've heard
tennis.
that. Well,
also,
you should see me when I go devil mode.
Oh yeah, they
Whoa,
call
is
him
he playing
Jim
with
Jock.
3 balls at once? No, he's just hitting it that fast.
So
Dumbest shit.
did your serves like cause like the
The Big Bang,
Yes.
and you watch the dinosaurs die. That was the funniest fucking clip. Oh, it's still funny to me. Like, I know what you're doing, but shut the fuck up. Like, get the hell out of here. Who do you think you are? But I also very much like to read. I haven't had a time in a while where I just sit down at home and read for like 2 hours, but I do try to read before like work or like during downtime if I get to the building early and I don't have anything to grade or whatever. It's just like, well, this is why I brought my book. I'm just sitting here in a classroom otherwise. So right now I'm reading this is a surprise kind of even to me, but I finally picked up Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
There you go.
Oh,
It's
hey.
a big book, but so far it's actually quite exciting.
Does it tell you how to get through all the tactical rooms?
Yeah, ironically, it's a strategy guide to a video game that hadn't yet been written because it was based off of Rainbow Six. I don't know how it works. There was like a Bo Burnham joke where like he was like, oh, so I was having this one argument with my father, and then the argument becomes the nature of using the argument in a joke, but it's like, but we can't use the argument yet because this argument isn't over yet, even though I'm telling the joke about the argument. It's like some weird meta thing. It's like, what is happening? Otherwise, like with the collecting figures, I did for a while. I have a
Like
bunch of
JoJo
JoJo
ones.
figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a bunch of JoJo figures, but like I fell off of that
And now
after
a
a
Doom
while.
guy.
What?
And now Doom
Yeah,
guy.
and obviously Doom guy. Yeah, but like for the JoJo stuff, I fell off after a while, partly because they do take up a lot of space after a while, and also like I'm not doing anything with them. I was just kind of buying them, and like now I have them, so I just kind of dropped. Even though it would be cool to have them all because they're really posable as they should be because they're JoJo figures and they have all these weird poses. So that's a thing. The Dio figure comes with that fucking, not stop sign, but that one street sign he was going to use to cut off Jotaro's head. He just has that. I get a kick out of that. And also, I'm very on and off with this. I really got to get back into this, but playing the piano,
I was
I've
gonna
used it in
say
a couple.
you play a mean piano. You're
I
really
was
good
actually
at it.
pretty damn sick in high school and early college, but like I stopped getting piano lessons because I was at college. You know, this is a case where the piano teacher would come to me, and
Lotus,
so.
I believe it's called the piano forte.
Oh, excuse me, the piano forte. I stopped taking piano forte lessons when I was in college, so my piano forte teacher wouldn't
Well,
come
did
to
you
see
learn
me.
bass after that? Never mind.
I don't want to do that. I would get into treble.
Uh,
But but yeah, like I still have some muscle memory from some stuff, but I haven't really dedicated myself to practice, and I would love to be able to get back into it. Like probably the coolest things I've ever played were Fantasy Impromptu or the third part of Moonlight Sonata. Like in Resident Evil 1, that is the first part of Moonlight Sonata, but the third part is way faster and way longer, and it sounds cool, and I was pretty damn good at it, but like I cannot play that now. I would need to relearn it, but it would be super cool to get back into. The last thing I probably played on the piano was for like, of all things in the world, like Rule of Rose, because it had a beautiful piano piece at the end. And I played a little bit of that, but I gotta get back into it, man. Piano's fun. Piano forte, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I've ruined it everything. Start the whole podcast over.
Oh,
well, it's actually French, so it's piano forte.
No, perhaps it's piano fortissimo. It's really the piano.
Fortissimo.
Yeah, pianissimo fortissimo. I just have to avoid playing the 11 forbidden notes.
It's the most loudest and most quietest that you can play.
Yes, but yeah, I want to avoid the forbidden notes. I want to play in the key of S quite fast.
Everybody, you should watch Look Around You.
Set the tempo quite fast. I love that.
Well, I think that should be our cue to wrap up this week. Plus, I'm very damn tired. We want to thank our fans who contributed questions this week. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Switch, Twitter, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or even getting involved in a Discord server with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
and if you feel like following me, MrRyu on most platforms, and I've been just kind of inactive in playing Final Fantasy 14 too much, or like being busy with learning programming. But yeah, feel free to just send me a friend invite or something. Just yeah.
Hey, speaking of Final Fantasy 14, didn't you beat God Kefka recently?
Yes, I did.
Wow, how was that? How did that go?
Well, let's see. Let's just say like the next patch was coming out where it's gonna be obsolete and like.
All right, I'm going to bed.
Until next time, everyone.
All right, see you.
That was my my version of the Skype hang up.
Yeah. Boom. Bye bye.
All right, catch you next week, everyone.